What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Late Night with ECB, number 3. It
Aiden,
has
I can't hear you.
been. You can't? Can you hear me? Mic check? Mm. Hold on, everyone. We're having technical difficulties right now. Can't hear me. Hold on, everyone. Corey can't hear me, so we are having technical difficulties right now. Josh can hear me. That's good. I just checked that. For some reason, Corey can't hear me. Let me tell. Oh shit, my mic. Let me tell him. Ah, he already did it. Never mind. Alright, we'll start this once Corey gets back in here. Hope everyone's having a good night so far. I know I am, because I just seen a hell of a game. Indiana and Northwestern. That's the majority of the game that we're probably going to talk about tonight. Because that ending was ridiculous. We're going to get into all of that once Corey rejoins here, but I thought for sure Jalen Hitchfino hit that shot. Alright, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Alright, let's go ahead and start this thing. Like I said, welcome to another edition of Late Night with ECB, number 3. It's been a while since we've done one of these. It's hopefully, since the season's starting to wind up here soon, probably going to start doing a little bit more of these, especially if we get to watch games like we got to watch tonight. And Corey, man, I know it's a tough loss for you, but Indiana was down 21 points at one point to Northwestern at Northwestern in a huge game for second place. For the Big Ten. Whoever wins gets solely possession of second place. And unfortunately, your boys came up just short. Got a beat on a game winner, but talked about your boys in the first half. What did you think went wrong, and why did you think Northwestern was up 21 points at one point?
Yeah, no, in the first half, Indiana just came out and almost looked like they were lost. Northwestern put some huge pressure on, really made some huge shots. And I mean, there was one point you watched a free throw that hit every inch of the rim, bounced around, and finally fell in after stopping up on top of the rim. And it was just like that was the prime example of what the first half was looking like for Indiana. A lot of turnovers, a lot of forced passes. Indiana didn't shoot the ball well. I think they went into the halftime break shooting about 38% on 6 turnovers. Just looked like they weren't really ready to come out and play from the get-go.
I messaged you guys when this game was starting to get going, and like the first 10 minutes of the game, we talked about it in the last episode of the podcast, episode 137. We talked about it on Monday about Jalen Hirschafino, his turnover prone, or him being turnover prone, and it showed the first 10 minutes of the game. Dude, he had 3 turnovers in the first 10 minutes of the game. And I think that's credit. It goes a lot of credit to Northwestern's defense, but still, this dude has to learn. If he's going to play point guard until Xavier Johnson comes back, until Xavier Johnson is healthy enough to take his rightful spot as playing as number one, playing as point guard position for Indiana. This dude has to learn to take care of the ball.
No, absolutely. I mean, that was the biggest thing that it just a lot of forced passes, a lot of times that he just kind of looked like he didn't know what to do truly with the basketball, and that was the biggest thing that we kind of saw there. It wasn't like he was getting caught on jump passes, things like that, but he was just trying to force over the top passes, some bad lobs, some different things that just, as a point guard, you can't have. You got to find ways to, protect the basketball and do what you want with it a little bit better.
I think once he settled down, especially in the second half, because he had 4 turnovers total. I mentioned the first 10 minutes he had 3 of those. Second half he only had 1, and I think he did a better job of settling down and stop forcing shit, stop trying to force passes, and he did a way better job second half taking care of the ball as he only had 1 turnover. So hats off to him. But still, in these big time moments, going on the road, especially on the road, with this big time second place implications on the line, you gotta learn to take care of the ball, and that's just something that still a freshman, so he has to learn to overcome. But TJD, dude, he had one of those performances again. This last month Really, he's been doing this a whole season, but this last like month and a half, TJD has been a different dude. Like he's been a top three, top five player in the country. Once again, another double double: 23 points, 7-11 from the field, 9-11 for the free throw line, 10 rebounds, and yet 8 assists. This dude was flirting with the triple double. While majority of the first half, he was getting double teamed, sometimes triple teamed every time he put the ball on the floor, and that's hence why he probably had 4 turnovers, especially early on in the game. But talk about TJD and talk about this month and a half this dude's been on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I saw the line that he's averaging a little over 24 points a game, 13 rebounds over the course of the last, 4 weeks that he's won, four straight conference player of the weeks. It's so hard to close in the gap between him and Zach Edey for Player of the Year for the conference and for national, but he's doing everything he can. I mean, this was another prime example of it. He absolutely came out ready to play. Or let me rephrase that. Didn't come out completely ready to play, but came out doing enough. He had 7 shots, I think, in the first half. He was double teamed, triple teamed. There's a couple times he was absolutely mugged down low. But overall, I mean, he was making the passes. He was, attacking from the wing. He was doing everything he could to put the team on his back, and really just came out ready to play tonight. I mean, I'm kind of upset that he didn't get the triple double because he had a couple opportunities of guys would take the shots or guys would knock down a couple shots to really have it.
And we talked about it Monday. Is it concerning? Because once again, this dude played 39 minutes in the game. He pretty much almost played, in these last 2 games, he pretty much almost played 80 minutes. Is it concerning that he's playing this much time in games like these when we still have like under a month ago until Selection Sunday? Is that concerning to you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he sat for 36 seconds tonight in the game. So, I mean, you think of it, he played a little over 39 minutes. The biggest thing is, I think Mike Woodson talked about it a little bit that he's still having some back issues. He's kind of still dealing with that. And it's like, he just continues to push himself to that point where, it's like you gotta take care of your body a little bit. It's a grueling, long season. I mean, basketball season is one of the longest of any sport, and especially college. And it's like you gotta rest up. You gotta be able to go when it becomes that time of the year when the lights come on. So it is getting to be a little bit concerning. Indiana needs something to kind of show up and really take some pressure off of him where he's able to rest himself a little bit. But I mean, he's absolutely taking on being the superstar for Indiana, and he's riding or dying by him.
I think a lot has to. If he's having back problems, if he's being injured, or if he's playing hurt, then I think he. I don't think you should set him by any means because you're getting into the nitty gritty of conference play and you can't really afford to lose a lot of these games. I use making the tournament without a doubt, but still, I think you should at least limit his minutes, keep him under 30 minutes a game because you're going to need him for March. Once you make the tournament, once you get into these big type of physical games, you're going to need him if you want to make a run and potentially get to the Final Four. Hell, look at Kansas last year. Kansas, Remy Martin spent most of the first half of the season. He was injured. I think he hurt his ankle. And Bill Self just said, hey, screw this. We need his ass for March if we're going to make a run. And he fully shut him down from the program. Did not let him practice, did not let him do shooting rounds, did not let him play a single minute in the game until he was fully healthy. And by the time we got to March, he was ready to go. And he ended up having an incredible March and we ended up winning the national title. So I think it goes the same thing for TJD. Limit him to like 30 minutes a night. Maybe if you're blowing out of teams, and maybe go about 25 minutes ish. But you got to have him ready. You got to have him healthy. You do not want another situation like in North Carolina where Mendo Burkett was playing every damn night, almost every game, and eventually by the national title, he ended up getting injured and he's fatigued. You're going to need him in March. So I'd limit his minutes and save him for once you need him in March here soon. But let's talk about Northwestern though. Boo Buie, 21 points, 7 of 13 from the field, hit all of his free throws, 6 of 6, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He wasn't in foul trouble. He did have 3 fouls, played 37 minutes. But man, how freaking good is this dude?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is what you call a winner. I mean, he flat out put the team on his back and did everything he could. He attacked the rim. It's a question of if he pushed off, if he didn't, but at the same time, he put the pressure on the refs when it mattered to either swallow their whistle or really make a call. And in that time, they swallowed the whistle, and he got the game winner with 2 seconds to go. But no, I mean, he absolutely did everything he needed to do. Northwestern shot 8 of 33 from three, so not overly well, just under 25%. But I mean, he found ways to shoot the basketball and score. Northwestern overall at the free throw line was almost perfect. I think if they missed one, I would be surprised. I was to say they didn't miss any, did they?
No, they was 14 for 14. They were perfect from the
Yeah,
line.
I was to say yeah, they're perfect from the line. They're 10 for 10 at halftime, so Indiana did do a little bit better of keeping them off the line. But the double technical, one on the bench and one on Mike Woodson was a turned out to be a huge game changer. So, but no, Bowie absolutely was a lights out game winner, and played like a champion today.
And Josh is in the comment section talking about you can't totally limit him because they desperately need a double bye, an extra day of rest. I get all that, but it's not the same situation as last year in the tournament. Last year, IU's tournament resume was all for making a run in the Big Ten tournament. If they didn't make a run in the Big
Absolutely,
Ten tournament, then they're not getting in last year. It's completely different
absolutely.
this year. Completely different. They're already in. Indiana's already in. They got the Purdue win. They got a couple other good wins. The Xavier wins looking better and better each and every week. So they already got quality wins. They're already set in the tournament. Only thing the Big Ten tournament's going to do for them, if they win or get a couple good games or get a couple wins in there, it's going to make them maybe get a higher seed. But that's really it. Like it's not as important as it was last year. Corey, do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree 100%. I think you hit on it. Last year the conference tournament was either make it or win a couple games or you're not in. This year it's 100% of, if we move from the 5 seed to the 4 seed or the 4 seed to the 3 seed, I think that's kind of the range that we're going to be in. And I think that's the only thing that it kind of entails. But I mean, at the same time, you got to be healthy and you got to be able to make a run when the time comes. So I think in a couple of games here coming down the stretch, I mean, I think obviously the at Purdue game is going to be a huge game at Michigan State, but there's a couple other chances at home where hopefully, he gets a little bit of a breather and can kind of take care of his body as well.
And talk about Northwestern and their game plan coming in. They did exact. I posted it on Twitter. They did the exact same thing that they did to Purdue once they did against Indiana. They double team Indiana's best player in TJD every single time he put the ball on the floor. There's a double team, sometimes even a triple team sent at TJD to make him uncomfortable. Do you think that's going to be a common theme throughout the rest of Big Ten play for them if they play a guy who they have a dominant big down low? Because the next two games they got Iowa at home this Sunday, and then Thursday they get Illinois, and both of those teams have good bigs down low. Iowa has Chris Murray, and Illinois obviously have Dane Danger. Do you think they're going to do the same type of game plan for those guys? You think they're going to double team them when they put the ball on the floor?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's kind of what Chris Collins is kind of living by right now, is really putting the pressure on your best player and making him kind of make the play to beat you. And Zach Edey had what 6 turnovers. Trace Jackson Davis had 2 tonight, or uh, 4 tonight. I mean,
Yeah, he had
sorry.
four.
Yeah, so sorry, he was a 2 to nothing or 2 to 1 ratio is what I meant to say for assist to turnover. But he had 4 turnovers, and I mean, right there was the prime example. And even on some of the passes he did complete, I mean, he had a wide open Miller Kopp a couple times in the corner and threw the ball high where Kopp couldn't shoot the ball and stuff like that. So there's a couple opportunities where I think that's going to be the kind of mo or memo for Northwestern is pressure, pressure, pressure.
Corey, when it comes to tournament play, do you want a Northwestern in your region? Like, if you're obviously not like a Big Ten school, like say if you're like a Power 6 conference school, do you want to see Northwestern in the tournament? Because I think they could be a dangerous team come tournament play, especially how
No,
well they're playing here lately.
oh, absolutely. I mean, they have seven quad one wins alone this year, which I think is almost top overall. They've beat 4 straight, ranked opponents for the first time in program history. They didn't shoot the three ball overly well, but they still find ways to win. I mean, 8 of 33 from three loses you a lot of games, that many attempts, and they still found ways. They took care of the basketball. They forced turnovers. played with their game plan. I mean, Indiana shot 67% in the second half, and Northwestern still found a way to win. So, no, I absolutely don't want to see a Northwestern in your region. I think they're just going to keep getting more and more dangerous as they kind of build confidence going down the stretch.
That's the biggest thing for them is like they're winning these type of games. They're beating teams like Purdue and Indiana. They're doing this without really hitting three pointers. Josh mentioned it Monday that when they came back and beat Purdue, they only shot like 28% from the 3 point line, and in this game they only shot 24%. They're a career 31.5% from the 3 point line. One of the worst teams in the country at the 3 point percentage. So they're winning these type of games, low scoring games without hitting shots. Well, I think that's remarkable on them. Let's go ahead and talk about the couple of final possessions there late in the game. Northwestern was up. I think it was 62-60, and then out of bounds play. Northwestern has the ball out of bounds. I forgot who the dude was, the inbounder, but basically throws it right towards Millicop. Millicop does a great job of getting the steal, gets the bucket, ties the game up 62-62. I don't recall if Northwestern had a timeout or not, but it didn't matter
They
because
did.
they did. Okay, they didn't
Yep.
matter because the ball was already in their best player's hands, and Chris Collins elected to let Boo Buie do what he does best and what he's done all season long, especially in these last couple weeks. They gave him the ball, got the hell out of the way. He had Millicop guarding him. He drives the lane, may or may not have pushed off. I don't think you're going to call that, especially on the road. It's a tough call to make in those type of situations, and I don't think it was blatant enough of a push off to really call that anyways. But he gets a layup, he makes it, and then Jalen Hood-Schifino from about three-quarters court, or pretty close to three-quarters court, throws up a Hail Mary, and it almost went in by that. It missed by that much. I thought for sure that Jalen Hood-Schifino nailed that three, and IU was going to win this game by one.
Yeah, no, I mean the overall the last few possessions, Bobo went down, scored. Jalen Hood comes down and hits that little runner to bring Indiana back within two with 32 seconds to go. Kind of talking the pressure of getting the inbounds pass, taking the trap. Indiana has only 5 fouls, so they, take that one foul, force Northwestern to have to pass the ball in again. Northwestern, the Miller Kopp play. I mean, that was a couple times in a row that, or down the stretch that he made just, winning plays without hitting shots. I mean, the loose ball that he dove and tipped out to Trey Galloway, and then that of tipping the ball over to Trace Jackson Davis to tie it up. But no, I mean that last possession. I mean, Bo Bowie came down and absolutely, I mean, put the pressure on, hit an absolute clutch shot, got the separation. I mean, Indiana, should have never been in that situation if they, they were late on the trap, they were late on the rotation, they never got there to for any kind of help side. Indiana kind of had their backs to the ball, and he made them pay. And I mean, but yeah, no, Jalen Hood-Schifino, that shot with, I mean, 2.6 seconds left. I kind of wish that Indiana would use their last time out to try and kind of draw something up, but at the same time, I mean, it was just impressive to see that close of a shot. I thought we had another Rob Finney against Butler back in a few years ago, or the James Blackman against Penn State, or some of those big time shots that Indiana's hit in the recent years. But man, I tell you what, it was close, and I was ready to explode. But
Yeah, hats off to Northwestern. Real quick, before we move on to another game that we're going to talk about here soon, to end it off with Northwestern, end it off with Chris Collins. Matt Painter is probably going to win National Coach of the Year, but I don't know. They might have to give Coach of the Years in the Big Ten because I think Chris Collins deserves at least a mention in this name. I mean, they're 19-7, they're second place in the Big Ten solely. What do you think Chris Collins has to do? They got 5 games remaining of the season. They play Iowa at home, 2 away games against Illinois and Maryland, a home game against Penn State, and the last game of the season they go to the RAC to play Rutgers. What do you think he has to do to win Coach of the Year in the Big Ten this year?
uh, I mean, I think he deserves it right now. I mean, they're predicted to finish 13th in the preseason polls in the Big Ten, and here they're sitting second place, the second team to be with 10 wins. So, I would like to think that he needs to win three of those matchups. I think if they hold on to second place solely, I mean, he's already knocked off, Purdue, Indiana twice. What was it? Michigan State, and I think Illinois also. So it's like, I mean, he's controlled every big time game. I think he's done plenty more than you could ask for. And I mean, if it wasn't for, Purdue having a little bit better team than what we expected, I think it's a clear cut. But I think in my eyes, still, honestly, he deserves that, more than anything.
I think that's a great point because that's something we forgot to mention. If February 23rd, when they go at Illinois, if they beat Illinois that day, they would have swept Illinois and Indiana this year, and those were our top two teams on our ECB preseason magazine, and they would have swept them both this year. That's an incredible accomplishment. I think once again that he's in the running, he's in the conversation to win the coach of the year in the Big Ten. Hats off to him. They've completely turned this program around from last year being like 15 and 16 to losing two of your best kids, Ryan Young and Pete Nance, to blue bloods. He's turned this program around, so hats off to them. Great win, and what a week for them, knocking off Purdue Sunday night and then beating Indiana when they was coming back and had a very good chance of winning this game. Hats off to them. They deserve it, and what a win for them. Moving on, though, let's go to the Kentucky Wildcats. This is a game that I caught up with just a little bit because I was watching the majority of this IU game, but I did get to watch the final possession. Kentucky wins 71-68 on the road, gets their first quad one win of the season. The final possession of the game, I forgot, I think the score was 66-64, 64-62. Casey Wallace drives the lane. He got away with the travel, 100%. I know there's some people online that disagree with that, said that his pivot foot was set and he didn't move it, but I completely disagree. Even the announcers, I forgot who was on the call, but even the announcers were saying that Kentucky got away with the travel, and Mississippi State head coach was furious because this made them, they fouled, then they went to the line, went up 66-62, and then they ended up winning the game. At the last possession of the game, Mississippi State was down 71-68. Throws a Hail Mary. Homie catches it. Goes up for a three. Completely wide open with a chance to send this bitch into overtime. And he loses the handle, and Kentucky ends up winning. Hats off to the Cats. Got their first quad one victory. Maybe got their second because Texas A&M beat Arkansas. So maybe it's their second quad one win. Either way, it was a must win for them. Kentucky got it done. And they might have got away with the travel because I think they did.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's weird because it's like Kentucky has the talent and has the keys to be good. It's just they don't always put it together. I mean, picking up a nice quad one win finally. It's amazing that it's February 15th before they finally picked one up tonight, but and potentially get their second if with the tennis or the Texas A&M win, but in a while. But it's like, hey, at this point, it's kind of crazy to think that it took them this long to really kind of get going with a couple.
Kentucky has 5 games remaining on the schedule. They got the big matchup, the rematch this Saturday against Tennessee. They go on the road on Wednesday, February 22nd, to play the Florida Gators, and then they go Saturday. The next Saturday, they play Auburn. Then they get Vanderbilt at home, and then the final game of the season, they go at Arkansas. How many of those games do you think Kentucky has to win to really make them on the right side of the bubble and make the NCAA tournament?
Well, I was going to point out two things. I can see them either going 0-5 in those matchups potentially, or I can see them winning a couple. I think they need to take at least 4 out of the 5 to really secure their way in and feel comfortable of not having to play in game, in my opinion.
I think they at least have to go. If they beat Tennessee, then I think if they go 3-2, I think they'll be fine. Especially if one of those wins is Tennessee. But say if they get beat, then I think they really need to win probably the remaining of those games. If they get beat by Tennessee this Saturday, especially if they get blown out, which I don't think it's going to happen. I just want to mention that. I don't think that's going to happen. But if they beat Tennessee, I think they got to win at least 3 of those. If they lose, and I think they're most likely going to have to either win all 4 or win 3 of them and really make a run in the SEC tournament. But anyways, they got 2 quad one wins this year. Hats off to them. Josh, I know what you're saying. Check my comments. You're incorrect. Bish, I did say it is the second quad one win, so kiss my ass on that. Go to bed. You got work tomorrow. Moving on, staying in the SEC, talking about them. Alabama, the number one team in the nation, has been the eighth number one team to fall off this year as Tennessee holds home court. Rocky Top gets it done, 68-59. Brandon Miller ended up fouling out of this game. He had 15 and 10, played 34 minutes. Tennessee's Zakai Ziegler played amazing, 15 points, 8 assists. Santiago Vescovi had 18 and 5. Man, I'm going to be honest. I said it was going to be a close game. Even though we all picked Alabama to win, I figured it'd be a close game. But if you would have told me that Tennessee, I get them the number one defense in the country, but if you would have told me that Tennessee would have held the number 5 or the top 5 offense in the country in Alabama to 59 points, I thought you was full of shit.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the way that Alabama can score the basketball, create shots, and just have so many weapons, and the way that Tennessee's been just so inconsistent, I thought that, Alabama had this game pretty much kind of in the bag, and, sure enough, I'll admit that I was wrong. I've been wrong a couple times, and, so Josh, Peyton, you both can, have fun with that comment that I was officially wrong.
Well, I can't say much because we were all wrong. We all picked Alabama to win this game, but it just shows that Alabama, like, defense travels. Even when you're not having a good night offensively, like, you can always rely. That's like the most consistent part of your game. Sometimes you'll have nights like Alabama did tonight when you just don't shoot the ball well, or you just having an off night from the field goal percentage. But your defense always travels, and even then, like, man, I thought it was going to be the first person to 70 points to win this game. Well, it turns out it was the first person to 60 points to win this game because Tennessee ended up winning 68-59. Huge win for them. They ended up losing. They was on a 2-game losing streak, getting beat by 2 game winners in a row. One to Vanderbilt and then one to Missouri. There's talks about them potentially falling out. How they should have fallen out of the top 10 this year. They stayed in it. But man, there's no question that they should have stayed in the top 10 this week because huge win for them. And Alabama, man, I'm gonna be honest. I said at the time that they were the best team in the country. But I'm going to be real with y'all. I really don't think there is a best team in the country. I think there's a lot of good teams out there that can make a case for being the best team in the country. But to just say Alabama is the definitive best in the country, I think it's a little wild for me to say. This tournament is wide the hell open. Corey, do you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing to think in February 15th, that we don't have a clear-cut person or team that, looks like a front runner. I mean, it depends on what day it is. Yesterday, it looked like Alabama, had the potential to be really or be that team. Today, we're sitting there saying they're right back, back down to earth and kind of, showed us. Last week, it was Purdue, Northwestern, and Indiana knock them off. Before that, it was Houston. They drop a game. We talked about so many teams, and it's like, you got to mention it. 8 number ones lose for the first, for this year and tied for the most in, history. And it's like, I mean, it's just, there's no clear cut team that I can say looks like they're going to run away with it this year.
If you had to make a list of a couple, about 5 teams that you think that deserves the bid for potentially being the best team in the conference, who would be on your list? Or best team in the country, excuse me. Who would be on your list?
I would still go with, I'm still going to mention Houston. I would still go with Alabama. I think they're really good. Obviously, Purdue. Um, Virginia is unreal at the top of the, ACC. I think they're getting better. They're doing some different things to kind of put themselves up there. And that fifth team, man, it's it's a tough one just because there's so many teams. They kind of fit that bill that don't really, pop out in my mind. I mean, every single day it looks like a different team would be in that, that top five, or that, fifth place spot.
I think the teams that I think of Purdue, and this is not in a specific order. I think Purdue, Alabama, UCLA. I think of oh God, I think of a team like Arizona is in that conversation. I think a team like Kansas is in that conversation. And then sneaking out, I think a team like Baylor is right there. If Baylor beats Kansas this Saturday, we'll talk about it more when we preview that game tomorrow on the show in episode 138. Big
That's not
game
what
this
happens though,
weekend.
because my big bet is not going to allow that.
And we'll see about that. But if Baylor beats Kansas this week, then Baylor's definitely in the running because they got the best backcourt in the country in my eyes. And Flagler, Keontae George, and LJ Cryer. Two of those guys are going to at least give you 20 every given night. It's just so, especially in this past month, they've really started to perform well. But big win for Tennessee. They got the job done. Alabama still. Let me check the SEC conference real quick and see where the order is. I know Alabama had. I think they're a game ahead of Texas A&M now. If I remember correctly, let me pull it up.
I say that's Alabama's first official SEC loss was tonight.
Oh yeah, we did have a conversation about that Monday.
Yeah.
That if they beat Tennessee, how there's a very possible chance that they go undefeated for the rest of the year, and they end up losing to Tennessee. Right now, the SEC conference shakes out like this: Alabama's still ahead. They're 12-1 in conference play. Texas A&M, after their big win against Arkansas, they're right there, one game behind, 11-2. Tennessee, with this win, is 3 games out of first place. They're 9-4, and then tied for 4th place right now is Auburn and Kentucky at 8-5. Do you think, looking at Alabama's remaining schedule, if it pulls it up real quick, I don't know what the hell Ken Palm's doing, but looking at Alabama's remaining schedule, do you still think Alabama holds on to first place?
Yeah, I still think so. I mean Tennessee's still this, a top 10 team, the number one defensive team in and Kim Palm uh, and I still think that, I think that Alabama still has the weapons and the tools to do it. This was their one matchup that we kind of talked about on Monday, and it proved to be the game that they lost. And I think they still have enough and have what it takes to run the rest of the table.
Yep, I agree. I think they got 5 games left. They go home against Georgia, at South Carolina, home against Arkansas, home against Auburn, and at Texas A&M. The Georgia and South Carolina game, they're going to beat the shit out of them. Home against Arkansas, I think they'll win that game. And then home against Auburn, Auburn might give them a run for the money like they did in the jungle, but I think they win. I think they win out. If they lose the game, it's going to be that final game of the season at Texas A&M. But I think they win out the remaining schedule, and they end up winning the SEC conference decisively. You mentioned Virginia. We're going to end it with this. Virginia played Louisville tonight. They won 68 to, what was the final score? 68 to 51. We're not going to go into watching the whole game because I'm going to be honest, I did not watch this whole game. I watched bits and pieces of this. But I did watch like the final 30 seconds of this game. And if you watch the final 30 seconds of this game, then you understand how bad Louisville basketball is this year. Because I posted it in the Facebook group. I don't know if you've seen this video yet. If you haven't, you need to go check it out because I posted it in the Facebook group. Virginia's up 61-58. K.A. Clark goes to the free throw line for a one-on-one. He misses the front end of a one-on-one. 30 seconds left, Louisville gets the ball. Louisville has no timeouts whatsoever. We spin the whole entire 30 seconds trying to tie the game up with a three-pointer.
Yeah.
We had multiple opportunities to drive the lane, go for a 2, make the game a 1-point game, then foul. Because guess what? If you foul and you're down 1, they're not shooting 2 free throws. They're shooting a 1-on-1. And we have a way better chance of either winning or making this game go to overtime. But we spend the whole 30 seconds dribbling in and out. Jalen Withers had a wide open layup. What does he do? Does he take it? No. He dribbles out, picks the ball up, throws it half court, or throws it across the court to L. Ellis. He drives into a double team, picks it up, throws it to Kamari Lands. He has to shoot it with like 3 seconds to go. Contested three-pointer. Completely almost balls it, and we end up losing the game. I mean, if I had to describe Louisville's season this year, I don't know what does.
I say, can you cue one of 2 things? ESPN not top 10 and the circus music, because that last 30 seconds, like you talked about, was absolutely a disaster. I mean, it was an absolute disaster, and 100% showed exactly what Louisville basketball is this year, which is upsetting because, I mean, they are, what could be a good program, but they were atrocious tonight.
After this year, do you think KP deserves another year? Like, say hypothetically, if we go into this, if he does get another year this year, which I'm gonna be completely honest, I think he deserves it because he had a tough go around. Chris Mack really didn't leave him with too much talent coming into this year, anyways. It was a bad situation. But if he somehow doesn't get a second year, I wouldn't be mad at it. But most likely he's going to. But if we go into the season next year, we start like 0-3, 0-4. How long does it take for him to get released from Louisville?
I think no matter what, he gets another year. Like you said, Coach Mack left them in kind of shambles in a rough spot. Um, I think if they start out that 0-3, 0-4, I think Louisville's going to start really getting kind of in an uproar, and I think his seat's going to start getting heated very quickly. I think that I'd say that I would think that they would give him most of the year next year, unless there's some major things that start unfolding too. They kind of players stepping out on the program, players kind of acting out. But I think he gets most of the next year as well.
I hope so, man. We need to turn this shit around because this is not Louisville basketball. This is sad as hell. But anyways, we're gonna end it off with that. There's not really too many games. I forgot to mention Marquette did beat they did beat Xavier today. They beat them by 1 point. Let me pull up the final score real quick because I forgot about that game. They won 69-68, knocked off Xavier, held home court like I figured they would. Sully Bone for Xavier played the whole game, 40 minutes, had 24 points. This kid is ridiculously good. Tyler Kolek for Marquette had 15 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. Stevie Mitchell had 17 points, 4 rebounds. Hats off to Shaka Smart. Hats off to Marquette. They're most likely going to finish with Clayton losing to Providence. They're most likely going to go ahead and win the Big East Conference this year. Hats off to them because that's another candidate for Coach of the Year this year, Ed Shaka Smart. So hats off to them. Big win for them. And Corey, they're most likely going to win the Big East. After I think we had them projected finishing like 6th or 7th this year. So big win for them.
Absolutely. Shaka Smart definitely deserves to be in that conversation. There's been some big time programs that have really surprised out. I mean, we already talked about Chris Collins. I mean, Shaka Smart should be right up there as well. Matt Painter has Purdue at another level after losing some key players, but I mean, I'm just glad I'm not in that boardroom when it comes to electing the National Coach of the Year, because that one's going to be tough for sure.
Yep, I agree. Shaka Smart's the man. Hats off to them. Big win for them. That's going to be the end of the show. Make sure you guys tune in to tomorrow for when we go live with episode 138 of the podcast, one of the weekly shows that we've been doing for the last couple weeks. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about. Obviously, we're probably going to go a little bit more in depth on this IU Northwestern game. We're going to talk about more about the Marquette Xavier game, the Providence Creighton game. Some big games. We're probably going to talk about Coach K coming back finally for Notre Dame's or for Duke's big win against Notre Dame. And we're obviously going to preview the game of the week this week. Kansas or Baylor at Kansas, a top 10 matchup with Big 12 implications on the line for first place. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Went a little bit longer than we expected, but we got to talk about IU, which is the ridiculous game. Once again, hats off to Northwestern. But make sure y'all tune in tomorrow for episode 138 of the podcast. My name is Peyton. For Coy, we'll catch y'all tomorrow. Peace, y'all.